Alright guys, before we get started on this 30-day coping strategy challenge, I just wanted to check in with you and let you know that I'm creating these videos as an opportunity for you to just see me, see that I am in this, I have skin in this too, and that, we are all learning how to cope with things about life together. And so I'm going to be as real as I can be in each of these videos without being obnoxiously raw, but I just want you to see me and know who I am. I'm Jody Chafee, and I started a podcast called the Home and Family Culture Podcast almost 2 years ago. I'm rebranding it so that it's just Home and Family Culture, the show, and I'm the host, and I interview experts and authors and influencers about family culture. And so how does coping strategies tie in to family culture? Well, we all have things that we need to cope with, right? We all have conflicts, we all have problems and things that we use coping strategies for. All of us do. And so the way that we learn how to cope is also the way that we model for our kids how to cope. And so the way that we model for them is what perpetuates. That's the legacy that we are leaving for our families and the behaviors that we establish that we want to carry over. And sometimes those things are totally subconscious. They're things that we don't even realize that we're doing. And so we're not being intentional about the messages that we're sending to our kids and for our families. And so before we even start, I want to tell you more about what this is about, what these coping mechanisms are all about. Basically, there are 3 different kinds of coping strategies that people deal with. Okay, there are constructive coping mechanisms, there are passive coping mechanisms, and there are escape mechanisms. Okay, so all 3 of those are ways that we are trying to protect ourselves from pain. And so what I want to dive into is more of the constructive type of coping strategies, and maybe a little bit of the escape, but I want to try and steer away from the escape mechanisms, because a lot of times when we get caught in just being distracted and trying to get away from our problems, then the problems go unsolved and we create more problems along the way. So all of these coping strategies are really going to be powerful tools about helping you to have constructive coping strategies. And then I want to avoid completely the passive strategies, because what passive means is that you're relying on outside sources to give you strength, or you're hoping that things just work out. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with hope, okay? We all know about the serenity prayer, like, serenity now, give me the courage to change the things that I can, the serenity to change the things I can't, and to know the serenity to know the difference. You know what I'm talking about, right? Well, I think too often we say serenity now and we give up. And what I hope that these 30 coping strategies will give you is the skills and the tools to do something, not just sit back and say serenity now and let go. I mean, there are some things that we can't change, but how we cope with those things is what's going to make the difference. And so those are the types of tools that I want to give to you, to give you that internal locus of control, or that self-efficacy that's going to empower you to see that there are more things within your power to change, and that those things will help you to grow and develop, and then be more intentional about the characteristics and the skills that we're passing on to our kids, and also be able to be more happy in our lives in general. And when we're happy, our kids will see that we're happy, our families see we're happy. If you don't have kids, you don't have a family, then the people you work with will see that you're more happy. Okay, and these are things that, rather than focusing on consuming, I want to focus a little bit more on producing, and focusing our coping energies towards producing rather than consuming. Because if we can do that, Think about how different the world would be. Think about how different our lives would be if we were more productive and wanted to use and channel our energy and our fears and everything that we bottled up inside of us towards creating and producing. Then we could get a whole lot more out of our lives. I was talking to my sister about her son that is enjoying playing the piano, and she said that he sits down at the piano every time he feels stressed out or overwhelmed or discouraged, and that is one of his coping mechanisms. How amazing would it be if we channeled our stress, our anxiety, and our frustrations into something creative, into something productive, so that we are not stagnant, we're not keeping ourselves down, we're not keeping ourselves in the conflict that we're struggling with in the first place. So that's what I want to accomplish with this 30-day coping strategy. And I want you to share with me what you learn on Instagram. If you go onto Instagram, go into your stories, tell me how this is impacting you, tell me how this is inspiring you, and tag me so that I can see it, and maybe, if with your permission, I'd like to be able to share it. Thank you so much for following along. I really, really want to share this journey with you and make this a conversation about how we can work together to support each other in our coping strategies, and be a little bit vulnerable so that we can support each other and grow this empathy that we all need, because we are all struggling with something. We are all trying to cope with something. And so bring it here and learn about it and how we can overcome these obstacles together. Thanks again for following along. Be sure to share this with your friends. Send them to homeandfamilyculture.com/cope to catch all the videos in the 30-day challenge. And then head over to Instagram and find me at Family Culture Podcast. Tag me in your stories and tell me about how this series is making an impact on you. Tell me how this particular coping strategy is impacting you, and tag me and use the hashtag Family Coping Skills. Thank you so much for following along. You can also email me if you have questions or insights or anything you want to share at jody@homeandfamilyculture.com. Thank you so much.